I need you to stop scrolling for a second and actually hear this. I mean, really hear it. Not the way you half listen to things while your mind is already 3 steps ahead, already cataloging everything you have not done yet, already measuring this moment against some invisible timeline that someone else drew up before you were old enough to question whether it applied to you. Stop, breathe, and hear this. You are not behind. I know what you are carrying right now. I know because it is one of the most universal human experiences there is, even though it feels unbearably personal when you are inside it. You look at your life and you see the gap between where you are and where you thought you would be by now. Maybe you are in your 30s and you do not own a home yet, and every time someone announces a purchase or a promotion or a milestone that you have not reached, something tightens in your chest. Maybe you are in your 20s, and everyone around you seems to have figured out their purpose, while you are still trying to understand what you are even good at. Maybe you started over, left a relationship, changed careers, rebuilt from zero, and the starting over felt brave in the moment, but now just feels like falling further behind. Whatever your version is, I see it, and I need to dismantle it, because the story you are telling yourself about being behind is one of the most damaging lies a human mind can construct, and it is costing you in ways you cannot even fully measure. Let me tell you about a man named Colonel Harlan Sanders. You know the name. You know the red and white bucket. What most people do not know is that by the time Harlan Sanders was 62 years old, 62, he had failed at almost everything he had ever tried. He had been a farmhand, a streetcar conductor, an army mule tender, a railroad fireman, a lawyer who got into a fistfight with a client in a courtroom. He lost that career. He ran a gas station that went under during the Great Depression. He tried to sell a chicken recipe to restaurants for years and was rejected over 1,000 times. 1,000 times. He was living on Social Security checks when the franchise idea finally took hold. He built one of the most recognized brands on the planet at an age when most people believe their story is already written. Tell me, was Colonel Sanders behind? By the conventional timeline, absolutely. By the timeline that actually mattered, his own, he was exactly on time. Or think about Vera Wang. She wanted to be an Olympic figure skater. She trained with everything she had and did not make the team. She pivoted to fashion, applied for editor-in-chief at Vogue, and did not get it. She was 40 years old when she designed her first wedding gown. Not as a celebrated designer, but because she couldn't find anything she liked for her own wedding and decided to make it herself. Today, her name is synonymous with bridal fashion worldwide. 40 years old, starting from what the world would call failure, and she built an empire. Was Vera Wang behind? The scoreboard at 30 said yes. The one that actually counts says no. But let me get closer to home, because these famous examples are inspiring, but they can feel distant. Let me talk about the kind of person you probably know. The one who spent a decade in a career that paid the bills, but hollowed them out a little more each year, and finally walked away at 40 to pursue the thing they had always pushed aside as impractical, and built something real. The single parent who put their own education on hold for 15 years to raise their children, then went back to school, sat in classrooms half their age, graduated with a degree they earned while working full-time and raising a family, and stood at that ceremony with tears streaming down their face, not because they were finally on schedule, but because they proved something to themselves that no one could ever take away. The person who got sober at 50 and built the most honest, most purposeful decade of their life in the years everyone else assumes are winding down. The woman who launched her business from a spare bedroom after her kids were grown, with no venture capital and no connections, just a skill she had honed for decades and the courage to finally offer it to the world. None of these people were on time by the timeline the world handed them. Every single one of them was exactly on time for the life they were meant to live. Here is what I want you to understand about the timeline you have been measuring yourself against. It was never yours. It was assembled from cultural expectations, from what your parents hoped for, from what your peers appeared to be achieving, from the curated highlight reels of people who were themselves performing a version of success they were not sure they believed in. That timeline was not designed for your specific gifts, your specific detours, your specific version of a life that has never been lived before and will never be lived again. It was a generic template applied to a completely unique human being. And you have been torturing yourself with the gap between those two things, as if that gap were evidence of failure rather than evidence of individuality. Stop measuring yourself against a ruler that was never made for you. And stop looking at other people's timelines as if they tell you anything true about your own. The colleague who got promoted seems to have it all figured out. You do not see the anxiety attacks they are having every night, the marriage that is quietly falling apart, the private conviction that they climbed the wrong ladder entirely. The friend who bought the house is stretched so thin financially that they lie awake doing math they cannot make work. The person whose relationship looks perfect from the outside has had the same unresolved argument for 3 years. Everyone is carrying something. Everyone is fighting a battle the highlight reel does not show. And everyone has a version of the gap, a place where they fall short of the life they thought they would be living by now. You are not behind other people. You are simply on your own path, at your own pace, building toward a version of a life that is assembled from your specific materials and no one else's. What I need you to do right now is make a shift, not a small one, a fundamental one. Stop asking how far behind you are and start asking what you are building toward. Stop measuring the distance between you and where you think you should be, and start measuring the distance between you and who you were last year. Stop treating your life like a race with a finish line that someone else set, and start treating it like a construction project. Your construction project, where the only deadline that matters is the one at the very end, and you still have an enormous amount of time to build something that matters. You are not too late. You are not too old. You are not too far gone, too broken, too far from where you wanted to be to build something extraordinary from exactly where you are standing right now. The most important chapter of your life has not been written yet. Pick up the pen. If this is exactly what you needed to hear today, share it with someone who is measuring themselves against the wrong timeline. Subscribe to Motivation Daily. Drop a comment and tell me, what is the thing you have been telling yourself you are too late for? Write it down, because the moment you name it is the moment you stop letting it have power over you. Let's go.